Good afternoon. Today, we're going to talk about a very important and topical subject, which is exactly how foreign investors can leave the Russian market. This is because recently we have been receiving more and more requests of this kind. In addition, we're going to speak about the distribution of the net profit of foreign investors and draw your attention to the fact that over the last month and a half, the legislative restrictions that we have been living with since the end of February 2022 have undergone a number of significant transformations. This video is dedicated specifically to these transformations. Today, we're going to analyze the procedure for disposing of shares and membership interests in Russian companies owned by hostile non-residents, as well as the options to distribute the net profit for the benefit of such hostile non-residents. Starting from March of this year, the Russian government introduced a special procedure for regulating transactions between residents and hostile non-residents, the subject matters of which are shares and membership interests in Russian companies. I believe that you most certainly know what hostile non-residents means. However, just in case, please be reminded that this term is defined in the government's instruction number 430R dated 5th of March 2022, and it means residents of 49 countries, of which the list is approved by the government's instruction cited above. So, what is the main purpose for which these restrictions have been introduced? Briefly, the main purpose of these restrictions was to limit the possibility for hostile non-residents to quickly dispose of the Russian assets or to distribute any net profit that such companies had accumulated over the previous periods and to withdraw it outside Russia. Today, we will analyze two large groups of transactions that are subject to the statutory restrictions. The first group involves transactions between residents and hostile non-residents with respect to shares of Russian companies. The second group of transactions involves transactions between Russian residents and hostile non-residents with respect to membership interests in the issued capital of a limited liability company. So, let's analyze the first group of transactions. These are transactions between Russian residents and hostile non-residents with respect to shares of Russian companies. The general procedure established in the Russian President's Order number 81 provides that a consent needs to be obtained from a special governmental commission for transactions of this type to be concluded. However, the current regulation provides for a number of exceptions to the general procedure. If such exceptions are complied with, transactions may be concluded in accordance with a general procedure, that is, without meeting the requirement for a permission to be obtained from the Russian Finance Ministry's Special Governmental Commission. So, for a transaction to be concluded without a permission from the Governmental Commission, such transaction should meet the following conditions. The first condition is that, if the beneficial owner of the non-resident that is a party to such transaction is a Russian national, such non-resident is not defined as hostile. This actually means that a transaction with that non-resident may be concluded in accordance with a standard procedure, so there is no need to obtain a permission. Moreover, exceptions are established for hostile non-residents that are controlled by friendly foreign states, provided that such control was established before 1st of March 2022. The following exception is a fairly interesting and, in practical terms, a very convenient rule, whereby, if a party to a transaction is a hostile non-resident, such transaction may be concluded without obtaining a permission from the Special Governmental Commission if two conditions are met. First, such hostile non-resident should be within the same group as the company with respect to which the transaction is concluded. In addition, the specified non-resident should be within the group exclusively on structural grounds, which means ownership of more than 50% in the issued capital. Second, such transaction should be concluded in rubles. The next exception concerns transactions aimed at the acquisition of a block of less than 25%. This means that a hostile non-resident may acquire less than 25% of the shares or membership interests of a Russian company without obtaining a permission from the Special Governmental Commission. The next condition is that a transaction between a Russian national and a national of a hostile state may be concluded without a permission being obtained from the Special Governmental Commission, provided that this is a free-of-charge transaction or the price of the transaction does not exceed 1 ruble, and both parties to such transaction are spouses or relatives. Before Order number 254 was adopted, the issue was, and still is, that unfortunately market players still do not understand exactly how the permission of the Russian Finance Ministry's Special Governmental Commission can be obtained, within what timeframes it can be obtained, what criteria a person should meet when applying for such permission, and so on. The second large group of transactions involves transactions between residents and hostile non-residents with respect to membership interests in the issued capital of a limited liability company. Before Order number 254 came into force, membership interests in a limited liability company were disposed of in accordance with a standard procedure, in other words, without obtaining a special permission from the Governmental Commission. However, notaries have a slightly different point of view and see Order number 254 as providing for an exception to a prohibition that does not exist. In other words, Order number 81 applies only to shares, and Order number 254 extends to shares and membership interests in the issued capital of a limited liability company. Thus, notaries believe that Order number 254 does not extend to membership interests in the issued capital of a limited liability company. As far as we are aware, the Federal Notarial Chamber has not yet provided any official clarifications. However, we do not rule out that if such exceptions are provided, the existing procedure may be changed and the procedure established by Order number 81 may apply to transactions involving membership interests in the issued capital of a limited liability company. That is to say, obtaining a permission from the Special Governmental Commission for transactions of this type to be concluded will become a requirement. We believe that if a resident is planning to acquire a membership interest in the issued capital of a Russian limited liability company from a hostile non-resident, such resident can do so without obtaining a permission from the Commission only if one requirement is met: if the hostile non-resident disposes of over 50% of the membership interest in the issued capital of such company. Otherwise, we strongly recommend applying to the Governmental Commission to obtain its consent or a clarification as to whether a permission is required for such transaction to be concluded. One more issue that we would like to discuss with you today is the distribution of Russian companies' profit. The above concerns both limited liability companies and joint stock companies. The existing regulation contains a number of restrictions. First of all, such restrictions definitely concern hostile non-residents. Thus, a specific procedure was established by Order number 95, which provides for the following mechanism for the distribution of dividends. A Russian legal entity, a company that is to distribute dividends, may open with a banking organization a special account of type C, to which it will subsequently transfer dividends in rubles. These monetary funds may subsequently be transferred to hostile non-resident. We should note here that this special procedure is provided for cases when amounts are involved that exceed 10 million rubles. However, we believe that 10 million rubles is an extremely insignificant amount for any legal entity, specifically if such legal entity belongs to a foreign hostile non-resident. As I have already said, for a Russian company to be able to pay dividends to a foreign hostile non-resident, an account of type C should be opened with a Russian bank. Order number 95 provides for a number of exceptions for an account of this type to be opened. Thus, for example, when an account is opened, the hostile non-resident or its representative does not have to be present in person. The submission of documents with respect to the foreign company is not required, and anti-money laundering audits are carried out based on the documents that the bank already has. Therefore, the foreign non-resident does not have to submit a huge package of documents, and an account can be opened within a relatively short time frame. However, the order itself establishes a time frame of not more than 30 days. After the account of type C has been opened and monetary funds have been transferred to it, in this context please note that monetary funds should be transferred solely in rubles, the hostile non-resident can claim such monetary funds for its benefit. However, unfortunately, no clear instructions have so far been provided as to the form in which a permission can be obtained for monetary funds to be transferred from an account of type C to an account in a foreign jurisdiction. In view of the above, we have to refer to orders number 81 and 79 that again provide for a special procedure for obtaining a permission from a specified governmental commission. Therefore, at present, it is extremely difficult for a foreign hostile non-resident to obtain net profit or dividends since, as we have already discussed, this requires a special account of type C to be opened. This account can only be in rubles. Obtaining such monetary funds from Russia in another jurisdiction is complicated by the need to obtain a permission from the Special Governmental Commission, whose principle of operation unfortunately remains unclear. That is all for now. We will continue to monitor changes in the legislation and let you know about them. Thank you and goodbye.